All right, good morning. Trust you're all doing well. It's wonderful that everything is working. That's always a good start to the day. Grateful for that. Grateful for that. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. After approximately 80 years-ish of the possibility and potential of liberation being presented to every human being, very few people have actualized that potential throughout human history. And this is why the ones who manage to end up being held in high regard, because it really is an extraordinary feat to break free of the illusion of the world, of others, and yourself. And what makes it so hard is the fact that, first of all, people don't know that they're living inside of an illusion. Even in spirituality, they've come to terms with the fact that what constitutes reality is a holographic simulation or projection. So, okay, we can say that that isn't real. That's not the part that's real about us. So for most of you, that's been easy. Also, it's been easy for most of you to step away from relationship dynamics that were abusive or traumatic because you're aware of the fact that that isn't love. So you're aware of the fact that that isn't real. The part where you're still stuck is that the greatest and grandest illusion of them all, the dream of all dreams, is you. And you see, the problem is if you tell a lie for long enough, it becomes the truth. So what's happened is you've engaged in a grand act of self-hypnosis. And you've hypnotized into yourself into believing that you are these emotions, these feelings, these thoughts, these beliefs, this series of habits, patterns, and behaviors that constitute your biology, this identity, this past, this very selected sliver of a story that reinforces you. And even if you are blessed enough to be aware of that, then you have to wean yourself off of the addiction to it that you have formed unbeknownst to you throughout the years. You see, the reason why you repeat certain emotions and certain feelings, and the reason why they intensify over time, is because you need more dramatic outcomes. There has to be more on the line for you to get the same dump of chemicals and adrenaline in your body that you could once have with minor upsets. Leave me a 1 or yes in the chat if you're tracking. So after 80 years of exploration, philosophy, psychoanalysis, plant medicines, LSD, mushroom journeys, you name it, very few people have been able to wean themselves off of the addiction of being themselves. And I hate to break it to you, but it is an addiction that is as hard to break as an addiction to heroin or crack. The reason why people don't speak of it in such terms is because it is obvious to everyone that heroin and crack leads to your demise. It is not obvious to everyone that continuing to remain addicted to your story, addicted to your emotions, addicted to your feelings, addicted to the thought, not a new thought, the same thought, addicted to beliefs, is having the same effect on you. You don't see it as an addiction. And I believe that this is why it is easier for people who are on a path of sobriety to walk a path of oneness than it is for any other community. Because they've already gone through the act of detoxing the intense physical ramifications of their addictions. And because they've done it, it becomes easier for them to unwind the intense chemical dumps and adrenaline dumps that constitute the addiction to the identity. And this is why I discovered a long time ago that this is something that you have to be totally committed to. Just like you have to be totally committed to getting off of heroin or crack or alcohol or smoking or whatever it is. In that same way, you have to be totally committed to weaning yourself off of the predictable, familiar, programmed manifestation of you. And this is why it takes that commitment. You have to devote your life to it. You have to devote your life to it. In the same way that your life depends upon getting off of an opioid or a narcotic, in that same way, you have to bring the same love, the same awareness, the same dedication, the same determination to being willing to know the truth of yourself. And this is why, even though that potential and that possibility is presented to you every morning, so few of you will be able to actualize it. So few of you. Because even though you've freed yourselves of the illusion of the world, you don't watch the news anymore, you've freed yourself of the illusion of others, you've gone through the divorce, you've left the abusive work situation, you've stopped speaking to the family members that just put you down. What you are still asleep to is the illusion of yourself. And you see, this is where spirituality fits right in its modern form. Because the modern manifestation of spirituality is not about liberation. It's about keeping you stuck in the identity layer of yourself. Because working on yourself just further entangles you in the identity layer of yourself. Because the self that you're working on isn't really who you are. It's not the truth of you. Who you really are is beyond definition, beyond language, beyond words. So after a while, you begin to realize, well, hang on a minute. This person, this identity, what I've come to call my identity, everything that I've engaged in a giant act of self-hypnosis around and I've confused as the truth of myself, is actually the greatest illusion of them all. The only difference is it's the one that I'm perpetuating on myself. It's the one that I'm perpetuating on myself. And this is why I believe that our community that is pursuing a path of sobriety is the community that's going to make the biggest difference. And this is why so many of you who are on a path of sobriety are drawn to Call to Calm, group alignment sessions. You make the commitment to impact. Because you are in no way deluded. And you are no way dissuaded. Because you've already gone through detoxing the hardest thing of all that you knew you had to detox. You've already gone through interrupting whatever it was that you had to interrupt. You've already become aware of it. You've already had the courage to move beyond it. And this is why you flourish and do so well here. Because if you can overcome the addiction of crack or heroin or opioids or smoking or drinking, well, then you can absolutely overcome the addiction to yourself, to your story, to your emotions, to your feelings, to the predictable programmed you. And this is why I believe that it's easier. Because somebody who has not gone through that does not have an awareness of the emotional component, the chemical component, the absolute adrenaline dump that happens in the body. So you think you're actually stuck in a story, but you're not. You're addicted to an emotion. You think you're trapped in a thought, but you're not. You're actually addicted to how that thought makes you feel. You think you're stuck in a relationship, but you're not. You need that relationship to amp up and become increasingly more and more dysfunctional because you need that dump on a chemical level and an adrenal level inside of you. People don't leave unloving situations because they don't deserve any better than what they have. Of course, they know they deserve better. But they won't leave because they're addicted to the emotions. They're addicted to the emotional dump, the chemical dump that they receive by staying in that relationship, as wild as that sounds. So embarking on a journey of oneness and freedom is a path of sobriety. You're all on a path of sobriety. You want to experience the sober version of being human. And what is the sober version of being human? Well, the sober version of being human is living life connected to the truth of yourself. The part of you that's neutral. Which is why when so many of you who have been on a spiritual journey for 80 years have a glimpse into oneness or have a glimpse into neutrality, you're disappointed. Because it's neutrality. There is no overwhelming feeling or emotion. You're just neutral. You are the observer. You're the witness. You're neutral. And this is why when you peek behind the curtain and have your first experience of clarity, your first moment of clarity, so many of you are like, well, this is boring. Where's all the heightened emotion? You see, because some of you are expecting God to become your new drug dealer. Some of you are expecting the divine to become your new drug dealer, your new enabler. And this is why you're disappointed. Because there is no huge emotion. There is no huge chemical dump. There's neutrality. There's neutrality. And you don't know what to do with that neutrality. You think that something's malfunctioned when it hasn't. To be in that neutrality is to be the witness, to be the observer. And this is why it takes a commitment. This is why you have to be dedicated to it. It's not something that you can teach. It's something that you have to be devoted to. So, every morning in Call to Calm, you're presented with the possibility of liberation and freedom. Every morning. And some of you have committed to that. You've devoted yourselves to that. And as a result, you are no longer addicted to the predictable, programmed version of you. Your acceptance, your embracing, your coming back to your breath has allowed you to interrupt your participation in how you used to be and who you used to be, so much so that you are now unrecognizable to yourself. And this is why for so many of you, when there's a work situation and people just love you and respect you, you don't know what to do. Something's weird. When you're in a relationship dynamic and there's no drama, there's no fighting, you don't know what to do. Because you're so conditioned and so programmed to seek out the heightened emotional response, reactivity, and ensuing chemical dump, an adrenaline dump. That a life that's peaceful, a life that's harmonious, a life that's lived in equanimity, your natural state, well, you reject it. You reject it. I don't want this relationship with this person that just loves me and doesn't yell at me and that's not abusive and that's not being mean to me. I don't want this relationship. I'm not getting high. Excuse me, I need to change my drug dealer. Give me the most dysfunctional person in the world so I can continue to get my fix. My reality has malfunctioned. It's too peaceful in my house. It's too calm, too quiet, too harmonious. Everything seems to be unfolding perfectly. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Something's missing. Something's wrong. Yes, what's missing is that life is no longer being your drug dealer. Life is no longer the source of this huge chemical dump and adrenaline dump that you call normal. Leave me a 1 or yes in the chat if you're picking up what I'm putting down this morning. You haven't freed yourself of the illusion because you're addicted to it. You haven't freed yourself of the illusion of the world because you're addicted to it. You need it to be that way so you can get high. You haven't left the relationship dynamic or the stuff that isn't loving and isn't kind because you're addicted to it. You haven't broken free of your own addiction to yourself because you're addicted to it. You're chemically dependent upon your story. You're chemically dependent upon your thoughts. You're chemically dependent upon the absolute train wreck of a dynamic that you call your life. Now, how do we wake up? Well, you can only wake up if you're blessed enough to find someone who's awake. Because only someone who's awake is aware enough to let you know that you're dreaming. That person also happens to be hopelessly devoted to all of you and shows up every day for 1,443 days-ish. Why? Because all they can do is present you with the possibility of sobriety and hold your hand every step of the way on that path. You see, your time with me has not been about fixing, healing, changing, or improving. It's been about freedom. It's been about liberation. It's been about delivering to you the potential and the possibility that you've been asking for your entire lives. Well, now it's here. And it's been here for 1,443 days. Question is, do you want it? And are you willing to be uncomfortable? Are you willing to be courageous enough to actually embody it? Because that's what it takes. That's what it takes. So, this journey is a path of sobriety. It's the culmination of becoming sober. The culmination of it. It's the ultimate sobriety. And that's not to say that any of these emotions or feelings or thought forms or stories or beliefs are wrong. They're just not really who you are. Do you see the difference? They're just not really who you are. they're just not really who you are. And this is why anyone who's on a path of recovery has an advantage as it relates to knowing their soul. Anyone who's ever come any addiction is at an advantage because they've already freed themselves of the incredibly hard task of detoxing the chemical dependency that they had to something. So then, detoxing the chemical dependency that they have to someone, well, that's no biggie. Detoxing the chemical dependency that they have to what's happening in the world, well, that becomes easy. They've already gone through it. And this is why it takes commitment, consistency, and repetition. You have to be devoted to it. First of all, you have to have a friend who's awake in the dream, who's kind enough to let you know that you're dreaming. You can't ask people who are still dreaming if you're dreaming. Thank God you have a friend like that. But then, you have to commit to your sobriety. And that sobriety isn't just about drugs and alcohol, or smoking, or food, or whatever it is that's gotten a hold of you. That sobriety is about detoxing the illusion of yourself. An illusion, an identity that has been reinforced chemically in your body. And for those of you who have been blessed enough to commit and to be devoted, you've gone through that detox. So much so that now you don't relate to the story because you don't need it. You prefer the neutrality. You prefer the calm. You prefer the peace. You prefer a life where there's flow and harmony instead of drama and dissonance and disease. So this isn't for the faint of heart. And spirituality is not going to give it to you. It's not. Because most of the people that are trying to teach you spirituality are teaching something that can't be taught. And they're also in the dream. They're in the dream of themselves. But if you want it, I mean really want it, then it's here. And as much as I love you, and I want that for you too, you're the one that's going to have to do it, beloved. You're the one. You're the one that's going to have to go through it. So I love you all. And a big shout out to our community that's on a path of recovery. Now you know why you excel as it relates to everything related to me and being here. Because you've already gone through the hardest detoxing ever. So at that point, by the time you get here, allowing yourself to detox the drama and to detox the chemical and adrenaline dump that you're experiencing as a result of your addiction to the illusion of you, or your addiction to your story, or your addiction to your compulsion with world events, becomes straightforward. In fact, maybe that's why you had to have the addiction in the first place. Because it set you up perfectly for liberation and freedom. Sending you all a big hug today. Sending you all a big hug today. So much love to all of you. If you want the truth, you have to devote yourself to it. If you want this, you have to commit to it. You can't just say you want it. You have to commit to it, and you have to be devoted to it. And I'm going to throw you a lifeline here. Unless you are fully committed to it, don't say you want it. Because it's just going to create suffering in you. Unless you really want freedom, just forget that it even exists. Just enjoy the dream. The dream of yourself, the dream of your life, the dream of the world. Just enjoy it. Because otherwise, it's just going to create so much suffering in you. Sending you all my love. Thanks for being here this morning. All right, everybody, close your eyes, open your palms. Good morning. Wakey, wakey. You're dreaming. Good morning, Spirit friends, and welcome to another Call to Calm meditation. The reason why, after 80 years of spirituality in the Western world or more, very few people have actualized their potential is because they are unaware of the fact that they are living in an illusion. They may be aware of the illusion that is the world, they may be aware of the illusion that is the other, but they are still oblivious to the fact that they are living in a prison of their own making called their identity, which is the greatest and grandest illusion of them all. And the reason why this illusion is harder to free yourself from is because it's predictable, it's programmed, and it's also reinforced by huge chemical and adrenaline dumps into your body. You're literally addicted to it without even realizing it. You're addicted to what you yourself have hypnotized yourself into believing is the truth of you. Well, at some point you're blessed enough to bump into someone who's awake in the dream. Not just the dream of the world, not just the illusion of the other, not just the dream of you, but the dream in its entirety. And they, because of their devotion and commitment, and out of their love for you and compassion for humanity, lovingly find new and innovative ways for 1,443 days to lovingly remind you that you are dreaming and that what you are interfacing with and engaging with is actually not the truth of you. So after all of these years of meditating, of breath work, of yoga, and everything else, prayer, contemplation, people have not been able to slip the confines of the created self because they're addicted to the created self. Well, today, we're going to become profoundly sober. Because the truth, beloved, is profoundly sobering. Close your eyes, open your palms, you beautiful humans, and take some long, deep cleansing breaths. Resting in the awareness of your breath immediately liberates you of the illusion of yourself. Becoming aware of every inhalation and exhalation. This morning, you and I find ourselves standing outside of a crack house. Except there's something weird about this house. It's not the typical place and space where you would deal crack from. You see, every room in this house is a room that you've gotten lost in because you're addicted to this particular part of yourself, the illusion of your identity. So together, we make our way inside. And everything in this house represents a room that corresponds to an emotion or a chemical dump in your body. There's a room for your story. And that story, every time you elicit, gives you a hit. It gives you a high. Floods your body with emotion. Floods you with adrenaline. There's a room called thoughts and beliefs. Walk into there, same thing. There's a room called childhood. And not just the totality of your childhood, just the small part of it that you need to remember to squeeze the most amount of emotion and adrenaline out of. And as we begin to look around this house, we begin to become aware of all of these places and spaces within your identity that's programmed and predictable that you repeat every day, that you're addicted to. And just like people get lost in crack houses for the duration of their lives, in that same way, you've gotten lost in the illusion of this you. Door by door, layer by layer, room by room, we begin to explore everything that you've set up. To continue to flood your body with every kind of chemical dump that you've now become addicted to. And every kind of adrenaline dump that you call normal. So this morning, going to begin to extricate you from every room in this house that you return to get high. And every room presents its own different kind of a high. Until eventually, you find yourself in a room that's very unlike every other room. It's just very zen. And the feeling here is a feeling of neutrality. Your breath immediately brings you back to this sober place, to this place of neutrality. And you begin to realize that this room actually represents the part of you that's real. It was never the story. It was never the thought. It was never the mind. It was never the body. It was never the past. Never the belief that who you really are could never be found in any of these rooms, except the one that you're in now. Continuing to rest in the awareness of your breath, becoming aware of all of the intricate and innovative ways that you have kept your addiction to yourself alive, the illusion of yourself in place and intact. And once we've opened up all the doors and all the closets and all the windows, and we're fully aware, we dedicate the rest of our lives to this neutrality, to being sober. The ultimate sobriety, living from the part of you that's real. Nothing but compassion and empathy for the version of you that got lost in all of these rooms. Nothing wrong with any part of it. You just weren't aware. I choose to live my life profoundly sober. I choose to live from this sobering neutrality that frees me of my addiction to the illusion of myself, the chemical addiction to the illusion of the programmed and predictable self. And I devote my life to this room. I devote my life to this neutrality. I devote my life to this sobriety. I keep coming back to my breath. Just giving all of these parts of you that got lost for decades in all of these rooms a giant hug. Setting them free, escorting them out of the house one by one, allowing them to finally see sunlight, to see nature, to be able to experience freedom from needing to repeat the same thing over and over again every day. They begin to become lighter until eventually they disappear. All of the rooms begin to shift until every room becomes a reflection of who you really are. The curtains are open, the light comes in, the house begins to redecorate itself. It becomes peaceful, harmonious. And there is a neutrality that fills every room. Not a high, not a low, a neutrality. Every room begins to reflect your sobriety until eventually this house becomes a safe house for you. It is no longer the place that you come to get high. It's no longer the place that you come to dream the illusion of yourself for decades. It is now the safe place that you come to marvel, to be in awe, to celebrate. Eventually, once the house is totally redecorated and renovated, you and I walk out of it. And once we do, that house in and of itself disappears into light. Take some breaths and just allow yourselves to be aware of how you feel or what's going on, what you're present to. The reason why you have not actualized the potential of your freedom is because, first of all, you weren't aware of the fact that you were living in the illusion of a dream. And then secondly, you didn't realize that you were actually addicted to it. Now you do. I'd like to send all my love to everyone here who's on a path of sobriety. Which, by the way, is all of you. Thank you. How wonderful to have a friend who's awake. How wonderful to have a friend who's aware of the dream that you're dreaming. A dream that you hypnotized yourself into believing was real. How grateful I am to be able to be your friend. This afternoon we have an amazing opportunity to dive deeper into our commitment, our dedication, and our devotion. If you would like to explore that, head on over to the website and make sure that you are registered for this afternoon's call. Also, just a reminder that there is no group alignment session today. There is no group alignment session today. I love you all with all my heart. Thank you for allowing me to turn your crack house into a safe house, until eventually it becomes a house that's just filled with light. Send you all a big hug. I'll see you later. Head on over to the website and you can register there. Bye-bye, everyone.